Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 111 of the Tick Bootcamp podcast. The title of today's interview is The Lyme Soldier, an interview with Christina Colandrea. My name is Richard Johannesson.
And I'm Matt Sabatello.
Matt, before getting sick from Lyme disease, Christina Colandrea was a fitness model and a member of the international bikini team. Now, she is the Tick Bootcamp Lyme Soldier because she refused to reschedule her podcast interview despite being very sick at the time that we interviewed her. While we were doing the interview, I repeatedly urged her to allow us to reschedule the interview because she was just so sick. But Christina refused to reschedule. She wanted the community to see and hear the real Lyme experience.
Rich, what bothers me the most about Christina's Lyme story is that she's been battling this war against Lyme since 1999. More recently, she's met a fellow Lyme soldier, Dr. Jemsek, whose medical license was suspended in North Carolina, which forced him to leave the state and practice medicine elsewhere to continue to help people with Lyme disease. Christina's joined forces with Dr. Jemsek, and together they continue the war against Lyme disease.
Matt, I am honored to introduce the Lyme Soldier, Christina Colandrea.
Hey, Christina, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Rick, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited.
Well, Matt and I are really blessed to have you, and I know you're going to bless our listeners with you sharing your Lyme disease journey with them. So, Christina, where are you living now?
I'm living in Columbia, Maryland.
And what do you do there in Columbia, Maryland?
I am a certified orthodontic assistant, but I am currently unemployed due to having the Lyme disease.
I'm sorry that your Lyme journey has taken that turn for you, but I feel very confident that by the end you're going to be back to doing that and some of the other things you had been doing. So, Christina, why don't you share with us where you grew up?
I was actually born and raised here in Columbia, Maryland. There was a point where I lived in Arizona, but that was during my college years. So I was here in Columbia, Maryland for the most part.
So you're a Maryland gal through and through.
Yep.
So when you were a child and you were spending your time dreaming about what your future would be, what kind of goals and dreams did you set for yourself?
Well, I had wanted to become a model. And that was like kind of coming from my grandmother, from her side, for her showing it to me. She used to do some of the same stuff. And she got me involved with John Robert Powers, which is some modeling agency. And I didn't really have any other dreams other than that sole focus. I kind of struggled, to be honest with you, throughout school to figure out what I actually wanted to do, because me being a ballet dancer, because I was also a ballet dancer for 17 years, the doctors just told me that I couldn't dance anymore because of like my knee damage and ankle damage and stuff. And it looked like I'm developed degenerative disc disease. So I couldn't dance anymore. So that kind of got just like squashed. So
During the course of your childhood, your dream was to become someone in the entertainment industry. First, you were pursuing the athletic arts, but then when the athletic arts were not available to you because of some physical injuries that you suffered, you began to pursue the modeling arts.
Correct, yeah. And I also did become, through Sterling Jewelers, I became a certified diamondologist, which I like diamonds. I just didn't like the how I had to sell them. I felt pressured, like I had to sell, push these people to buy more than what they wanted, and I'm not that type of person. So I did that, and then I also continued to go to a dental assisting school. And but I did that later on after I had gotten married, and so then I became, from being a general dental assistant, I became a certified orthodontic assistant instead, and with my radiology license.
Okay, so let's talk about your childhood and the pursuit of your artistic dreams. First as a ballet artist, and then ultimately as a model.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the kind of work you did to prepare yourself for your artistic career, and what that ultimately meant to you.
Well, pretty much Monday through Saturday, growing up from the age of 5 to 17, my life was wake up, go to school. As soon as I came home from school, ate something real quick, changed in my dance outfit, and go off to the dance class, come home, eat something real quick, get the homework done, go to bed. And the only day that wasn't like that was Saturday, but I was still dancing on Saturdays. I just didn't start dancing until 11 o'clock a.m. And then it was up until 8 p.m. So I was really competitive with it. So that's basically what my schedule looked like from the age of 5 to 17-ish.
Am I correct in my understanding that you were aggressively pursuing your ballet practice because you were hoping at some point to convert that into a career? Or
Oh,
career
yes.
path?
Absolutely. I was pursuing my ballet path in college. And I did it for, I think 3 semesters before the doctors told me and looked at me like, you can't dance anymore, Christina. You can't, your body just can't handle it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you were a successful enough ballet dancer to convert that into your educational path and going into college. So where'd you go to college, and what was your initial goal when you went to college?
I initially went to Scottsdale Community College, that's located in Arizona, to get my residency, and then I got my residency and transferred over to ASU. And what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
And when you went to Arizona, first to the community college and ultimately to ASU, what was your course of study and what were your goals with that course of study?
Gosh, I changed my major so many times. Like I can't count. I was the dance major, and then after the doctors told me I couldn't do it anymore, I switched to psychology, and then I was like, I'm not so sure if this is for me. Then I switched to criminal justice. I was like, not sure if this is for me. And I go to my counselor. I'm like, what do I do? And she's like, well, you have enough credits where you can just, get a associate's degree. I said, what do you mean? And she said, you can do it in general studies. You just have to apply for it because you have enough credits. And I was like, okay, then I just want to apply for it. So I got my associate's degree, and then that's when I transferred to ASU, and I majored in business administration at that point. And then I did that for 2 semesters, and then that's when I dropped out and was like, I don't know what I'm spending our money on, and then it just wasn't fair. So I packed my things up and came back home to Maryland.
Now, I understand that you went from pursuing a dance career to then pursuing a modeling career. And part of the reason why you pursued your modeling career is it was sort of a next step, a less, I guess, rigorous or athletic step. But even more importantly, it was something that your grandmother had instilled a desire in you to do. Can you share with us how you then began your modeling pursuits?
Yeah, I first modeled when I was 16, and that was through the John Robert Powers Agency. and then it wasn't until honestly this 2016 that I really started really modeling for where it actually went somewhere, and I became part of the international bikini team. Somehow one of my friends recommended that I go to, I can't remember the venue, but it was somewhere over the Bay Bridge over here in Maryland. And there was a director of the bikini team, and she came up to me and she says, are you one of the contestants? And I was like, no. And she goes, oh, would you like to participate on this bikini contest? And I was just like, well, I happened to have my bikini on because it was at a location where they had boats docked and everything. And I'm like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll do that. So that was in June 2016, and up until this day, I'm still part of the team. My place is just on hold for right now until I get better. So I miss it very much, though. I can't wait to get back to them.
So let's talk about the bikini team experience and how that developed for you. So you have this chance opportunity to participate in a bikini contest, and that results in you being offered an opportunity to model with that team. Can you talk to us about the types of activities you did with that team and what kind of events you went to prior to you getting sick?
Yeah. So one of my favorite events that we do every year is called the Sturgis Buffalo Chip, and it's the biggest biker rally in the U.S. As to my knowledge, at least. And we what we do there is we hold pageants on the big stage every night. I think between 9 and 11 p.m. and other events, whether it's in the Poconos, we go to a lot. We go overseas, the Dominican Republic, and what we'll do is, most of the time we're running bikini contests, like within ourselves, and then whoever places, they get X amount of money. We also do other stuff, like we get hired to be ring girls at like fighting matches, like boxing, UFC, you name it. Or we'll be hired to be golf caddies. And what's another thing that we do? We'll show up to, calendar signing events with like Harley Davidson, because the director likes to partner up and work with them. But it's definitely a lot of fun, and I love it.
So it sounds like you were living a pretty glamorous life, and you were regularly serving in some type of a celebrity or modeling capacity during many years of your life. Now, why don't you share with us when you first started to show the symptoms of what now you know to be your tick disease, and how that began to interfere with your modeling aspirations?
Okay, so my first time feeling any symptom, I was honestly about 12 years old, and I started having issues with insomnia. And then I was having issues with feeling fatigued. And with my dance classes, I just felt frustrated because my team members, seemed to be doing better than I was, and they seemed to be not being out of breath, and I'm just like, man, I was probably the skinniest one in the room, and it just didn't make any sense. And then the doctors, tried to tell me that it's probably because, I have sleep apnea, and which I have mild sleep apnea, but it's so mild that you can't really do much for it. And I tried the CPAP machine, and I couldn't do that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like, I'm constantly throwing up. I was throwing up multiple times a year. Like, they're on average from probably the age of 12 to 17, like, I averaged in the hospital up to 10 times a year. Wow. And I was vomiting, and then I got teased for it at the dance studio. People were making rumors saying that I was bulimic. And then that got to my school as well. And then there was even more drama at my school, and I had to be transferred schools because of the bullying. And
now,
and it was
Christina,
awful.
can I ask you to focus on that with me for a minute? So
yeah,
you believe all of the symptoms that you're suffering during your childhood are related to your Lyme disease?
Correct, absolutely.
Now, you said that you were going to doctors as often as 10 times per year. Yeah. At any time during that part of your journey, did any doctor ever mention to you or a family member that you may be suffering from Lyme disease?
Absolutely not. Nobody ever mentioned it. I never had even heard of it. The first time I had ever heard of it, I think I was 19 years old. And I'm 32 years old right now, but yeah, I was 19 years old, and I heard that one of my fellow members from my high school had gotten it, but I didn't bother to look into it.
Okay, so now let's also focus on the same window of time where between the very early age when you first started showing your symptoms and now all of these hospitalizations that you had up through high school.
Hmm.
What did you know about ticks and what did you know about Lyme disease?
At the time, I mean, I just knew that ticks weren't good and they just suck up blood and they can make you sick. Maybe that's all I knew. But like I remember just going and playing in the woods, and like I'd come home and be like, "Oh, Ma, there's the tick on me," and she'd sit there and take tweezers and pull it out, and she made sure that the head came out, and we burnt the tick. And I mean, we thought nothing of it.
So you were bitten by ticks many times during the course of your childhood?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
And other than knowing that you should remove them and that they could possibly make you sick, you didn't know anything else about ticks and Lyme disease?
Yeah, you're correct. I really didn't know.
Okay, so now let's fast forward to your college years. Were you continuing to show symptoms of what you now know to be your tick disease?
Yeah, looking at it, I started having like attention problems. So I went to a psychiatrist and I was like, man, I'm having troubles focusing. I'm exhausted. Like, can you please help me out here? So they prescribed me Adderall to help, and that helped significantly. And I was like, oh, okay, that's all I needed, whatever. I have ADD, okay. So.
But unfortunately, your symptoms continue to develop. You
Yeah.
graduate from college or you complete your college education, and you now are in pursuit of your modeling career, and your symptoms continue to develop.
Yes. So do you want me to talk about when my symptoms started to really get severe, where something I knew was definitely wrong?
Yeah. Let's talk about you now at this stage in your life where you've completed your college education. You've now pivoted from your career path as a dancer to your career path as a model, and how your symptoms are beginning to develop and how they're interfering with your modeling career.
Well, I first started back in last January, maybe even December. My hair started falling out like crazy. It was just not normal. And then I was noticing that I was needing more and more caffeine to go throughout the day. And then I was becoming very forgetful, and my hips were bothering me really bad. And then my knees would bother me every so often. And so I, hey, can you pause that?
Yes, yes.
I just like totally, when I started going on my rant, my brain went whoop.
We understand. We understand. So
exactly.
Matt will edit that. I'll just clap. So, okay. So Christina, let's go back to talking about your symptoms developing about a year and a half ago, where you started to suffer more severe symptoms than you ever had during the course of your life.
Okay. Yeah. So it started with my hair falling out and the headaches, and then the needing the energy drinks in order to function. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Bang energy drinks, but they're equivalent to 3 cups of coffee. And I was finding myself drinking anywhere from 2 to, I went from 2 a day to 5. On top of that, I would go take pre-workout and try to go do an exercise routine. And because I was in the gym all the time, because my modeling, I was known as one of the fitness models on the team. So I had to stay fit. And the one day I went to the gym, I felt tired, and I was like, oh, just drink another energy drink. And that was like my 6th one for the day. And then I took pre-workout, and I'm at the gym. I'm not there even 20 minutes. And usually a workout for me is about 30. And I'm not even there 20 minutes. And before I know it, bam, I collapse at the gym. And next thing I know, paramedics are being called.
Now, Christina, before that event, and it sounds like it was just getting worse and worse and worse before that event where you had your collapse.
Yeah.
Do you know if you were bitten again by a tick? Meaning, when was the last time you were bitten by a tick prior to you having the event where you collapsed at the gym?
Yeah, so my second doctor that I had gone to, he said that based off of what he sees with my blood work and all, he believes that I was bit for a second time when I first started seeing like my symptoms arise back in last January, or when was that?
You said December or January. Well, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, but other than your doctor telling you that he believes that you were reinfected, did you yourself remember finding a tick on you that you had to remove around that time?
No, I don't remember being bit by anything.
Okay, so you're at the gym and you collapse, and you said you wake up and the paramedics are treating you. What did the paramedics do? And ultimately, did you receive a Lyme diagnosis after that collapse?
I mean, they took my vitals, my EKG showed something off, and it was kind of like my heart rate was going up and down really fast too. And so get to the hospital and they're just kind of like, you're fine, you just need to, decrease your caffeine intake. And so they said it was just like basically a caffeine overdose. And like, okay, so I went to my doctor and I told him something's wrong, and he's like, well, I'll draw some blood to see what's going on. He comes back, he goes, everything seems normal, and I'm like, doc, something is not right. Like, this isn't normal, drinking 5 of these a day. And then all of a sudden, one day, my mother told me that my father was diagnosed with Lyme disease. And I was like, what? And so, because like I was living with them, and so I went back to my doctor and I said, please, can you test me for Lyme disease? He says, I don't think you have it, Christina. And I was like, oh, I just want to have peace of mind. Just please do it for me. He's like, okay. And sure enough, I tested positive and I had all the bands. And I don't know, did you want me to go further with the doctor's part, or?
Well, we're going to talk more about that, but I'd like to explore with you a minute the conversation you had with your mother when she told you your dad had Lyme disease. So how did that come up, and were you surprised that your dad had Lyme disease when your mom shared with you that he had recently been diagnosed?
When she told me, I was definitely shocked because, like I said, the only person I knew that had it, they went to high school with me, and I had overheard that it could be deadly, but that's all I knew about it, and so it scared me. And I'm not too sure why they tested my dad, but my dad, he had like a joint pain and everything, so I guess that's why they tested him. But
now, do you believe that your dad suffered his Lyme disease as a consequence of a tick bite just before the diagnosis, or is this something you think he may have been suffering from for many years?
Oh no, I think like looking back, I think this is something my dad contracted years ago, just because, and he's also type 1 diabetic on top of it. But yeah, I definitely think he was diagnosed. I mean, he was infected years ago. 'Cause it's amazing, like watching him. As far as like joint pain, he's worse off than I am, and he's just like moans, grunts, everything, and you can see he struggles just to sit or get up out of a chair. So yeah, I think he's at the same stage I am. We're both at the stage 3.
So Christina, do you think it's possible that perhaps your dad had actually transmitted the Lyme disease to you, and that, maybe you were suffering from Lyme disease congenitally, or do you think you contracted your Lyme disease as a consequence of a series of tick bites?
It's funny you say that because my mom has been diagnosed with lupus, but I know lupus is one of those ones that it, misdiagnosed and is actually a Lyme disease. So there is a part of me that thinks I could have gotten it congenitally from my mother because she could have been infected. But there's also another part of me that was saying no, because I really didn't have any symptoms at all until I was, about 12 maybe. I don't know. So it's so hard to determine. And my mom went for her test with the doctor and it came up negative. But as we know, sometimes a negative is a false negative. So we don't really know.
So let's talk about your diagnosis. So your dad gets diagnosed, you go back to your doctor who had not clinically diagnosed you with Lyme disease, despite having some very classic Lyme symptoms. But you do demand the Lyme test. He concedes and gives you the Lyme test, and you now come back Lyme positive.
Yes.
And now tell me how you felt when you got your Lyme disease diagnosis. Were you happy? Were you sad? Or was it some combination of the two?
It was more of like, oh, okay, here's a relief. I have an answer as to why I've been suffering and like what's been going on. But then again, I was like, whoa, well, I don't really know much about this. Maybe I should educate myself, and thank God I educated myself, because that's how I found out, you really shouldn't go see infectious disease doctors or what have you. You really do need to see an LLMD.
So initially your reaction was, all right, I have a diagnosis and I should be able to pretty easily treat this?
Yeah, I thought for sure. Everyone I talked to, like friends, coworkers, family members, you name it, they're like, oh, no big, because my doctor did give me 6 weeks of doxycycline, and they said that should take care of it, like no problem. So there's nothing to worry about, Christina. And as I started reading more and more and more while I'm doing the 6 weeks of the antibiotics, it was at the 4th week of antibiotic treatment that I found an LLMD that I decided to go to.
Now, I'm sorry, Matt. Christina, when you were taking your 6 weeks of antibiotics, were you taking oral antibiotics or were you taking intravenous antibiotics?
I was taking oral at the time.
And how did the antibiotics affect you? Meaning, did you receive some relief initially, or were they affecting you in some other way?
Unfortunately, my body went haywire and it went south. I started dropping weight drastically. I went from 120 pounds down to 94 pounds. And then I started developing with the Lyme rage, and I was herxing really bad. And I went and actually attempted suicide twice, just a day apart from each other. And it's just, I've struggled with mental health issues like since I was 15, but that's, my current LLMD is telling me that my psychiatric issues could be related to the Lyme. But yeah, I think that's why I herxed in that manner, is because I was already, having bad mental experiences from it.
So Christina, you shared with us that you were starting to have some mental health issues after you started to take the course of doxycycline that was prescribed to you.
Yes.
One of the things that we've consistently observed is that mental health challenges are often a presentation of Lyme disease. In fact, the guest we interviewed just before you this morning shared with us that she went through a period where she was going through Lyme rage, where there were all kinds of angry, outbursts that ultimately had her deal with some job-related issues, because although she's a generally passive person, she was getting angry and she was engaging in all kinds of outbursts. So that's a pretty common experience. Can you share with us how your mental health issues were presenting now that you were taking your antibiotics?
Oh yeah. The Lyme rage was definitely present for sure. I was so irritable. I'd snap at everybody. It was almost like I was looking for fights to pick, and I just felt like such a very unhappy person because of it. And then I became super depressed because I felt like I felt like I was losing my friends because of the Lyme disease. And I just got very suicidal, and I decided to pull the trigger on trying to take my own life, and twice, for just a day apart from each other. So,
well, thank God you were not successful in those efforts.
Exactly.
Thank God. So Christina, tell us, what your medical journey was like after that. Meaning, you're beginning to have mental health challenges. Are you discussing those with your doctors, and what are your doctors doing to help you to deal with the mental health challenges, and specifically the Lyme rage?
Okay. Well, there's a RN I see at a psychologist office, and she's my provider, and she's totally on board with my treatment and with my LLMD. And I first started seeing an LLMD. It took me about like a month to get in, and that LLMD, I did not like her that much. So I switched to another LLMD, and this is the one that treated me while I was herxing really bad and got hospitalized. And due to the hospitalization and how he handled the situation and his lack of concern and telling me he wants to put me on another medication that could have a side effect to suicide, I was like, oh, no, I can't be doing this. And he didn't even bother to call to check up on me, even though he knew I went into the mental institution. So I said, I need to see a new doctor. And long story short, I watched a documentary called Under Our Skin, and it has Dr. Jemsek on there. And I thought he was in North Carolina, and then his practice closed and stuff. But then I realized that he's actually, reopened, and he's here in DC. And so I got super excited. And there were some events that happened in between, but now I'm seeing Dr. Jemsek, and I love his protocol and his approach on things, because it's a lot more safer approach.
So talk to us about the journey to Dr. Jemsek, who, as our listeners, I'm sure, are well aware of. There was an effort by the state of North Carolina to remove his medical license, and he was recently cleared. And we actually celebrated the clearing of Dr. Jemsek and the withdrawal of the charges that were brought against him by the state of North Carolina. So thank God that happened, because he wouldn't be there in DC for folks like you to have as a treating physician.
Exactly, yeah.
So tell us about Dr. Jemsek and how he has been different for the way he's been treating you than everyone else that you worked with before you were blessed enough to find him.
Dr. Jemsek is absolutely amazing, and his staff too. They're so knowledgeable, and they are like his bedside manner and his nurse's bedside manners are just amazing. Their attention is 100% on you. I didn't wait, I don't think, more than a minute or two tops in the exam room by myself, until it came back in. It was just his approach, how he does it is they like to make sure they stabilize you first, and that means mentally as well. So that's why they're working hand in hand with a nurse practitioner that's at my psychiatrist's office. And they first started me on a bunch of supplements to boost my immune system because they saw that my immune system is like really low. And so they try to boost it first because they didn't want my body fighting when my immune system is being low. So we boost the immune system, and they've just recently, last week, got me started on the antibiotics. So I'm starting to feel some like cognitive impairment going on because I'm herxing, but yeah. So then I wound up at, did I say I wound up at GemSec's office? Yeah.
You did, Christina. Yes, you said that you've been working with Dr. Jemsek now.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, I can't say enough how amazing he is, and he's worth a trip if people are looking for an LLMD. I mean, there's nobody better, like literally nobody.
So tell us about how you're doing now. Meaning, I understand that you're in the middle of a new treatment protocol with Dr. Jemsek, and I understand that there are some cognitive challenges that you're facing because you're in the midst of this new treatment. But tell us how you're doing now and what your hopes are for completing your treatment with Dr. Jemsek's office.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, like my symptoms are a little bit at bay, except for the cognitive part. I'm struggling. I'm sure you guys could probably tell, but for my memory, I'm definitely struggling. And what was the second part of the question, Matt?
How are you? What are you expecting to happen as you progress through your treatments with Dr. Jemsek's office?
Oh, I think that my herxing might get worse. To be honest, but not too much. I think I'm just gonna have to like need my wheelchair more often, because if I walk too far, like my legs feel super weak and then they want to give out, and then that for the next 3 days I'm paying for all the energy, I spent on myself. So, excuse me.
So, Christina, can you share with us what you're doing for your herxing?
For herxing, you have to detox, and what I do for that is I dry brush every day. And for whoever doesn't know what that is, it's like it's a brush. I think it's made out of boar's hair. They can make it out of other stuff too, but you use it to brush your skin, and you go up in the motion towards the way of your heart with every part of your body, and you go 2 to 3 strokes over each part, and that helps open up your pores and helps your body to be able to detox. Another way to some people do it once a day, some people do it twice a day. It's up to them. I do it at least once a day. And then the best thing for, if you can, is to shower right afterwards. And they say that helps with the herxing and the symptoms and detoxing. Also taking Epsom salt baths, 15 to 20 minutes, no longer than 20 minutes, because if you sit there for longer than the 20 minutes, those toxins can actually get reabsorbed back into your body. So that's like really, really, really important. And then, I'm drinking tea by the Yogi teas. I get mine from Wegmans. You can buy them online on Amazon. They're great. So I have the regular, just plain detox, the peach flavor, wild berry flavor. It tastes great. You don't even need to add anything to it. And stretching. I've been stretching a lot. That also helps with detoxing as well. So yeah, those are my main ones. Okay,
so your detoxing framework includes dry brushing,
yes.
Epsom salt baths, but only for 20 minutes, so you don't reabsorb any of the toxins. You're drinking herbal teas, and they're assisting you as well. And the fourth step in your framework is that you're also doing some stretching, some light exercising.
Yes, absolutely.
And are you finding that those combination of steps that you're taking are helping you through the Herxheimer reactions that you're getting from your antibiotics?
Yeah, I believe it's helping him from getting worse. I tried to detox as much as I could last night, so I could make sure I was at my best today. And I'm like, it's like a bummer. I keep feeling myself like, I can hear myself like being affected. But
no, you're doing wonderfully, and we really appreciate you taking this time. So Christina, one of the last things I wanted to talk to you about, and you've been really generous with your time, is the transformation that you've gone through. And I understand now that now that you're at another place in your journey, that you're a little less active on social media than you had been before. But one of the things that attracted us to you and made us want to interview you for this podcast is that you're one of the very active people in the social media community, giving back to folks who are going through struggles with Lyme disease. And you're putting up wonderful photos, and you're talking about your experience as someone on a Lyme disease journey pretty regularly. So can you talk to us about what inspired you to start giving back, and what inspired you to use social media as your vehicle to give back to the Lyme community?
Honestly, it was my team, the International Bikini Team. It made me realize, being part of them, that because I have a couple thousand followers, and the plan is to get more, it made me realize, I said, oh, holy crap, I might be able to get to some people, and people that are struggling like I am and feel like they have no hope, and that there's, nothing can be done. And I'm like, if I start posting about it, and I need people to be advocates and, be aware. People really need to be aware, even if they don't have the tick, or they don't know anybody that has it, or whatever. People need to start being educated. I was like, and I don't want people to feel like they're alone either, and that like there's people just like them who are struggling just as hard, and we're just trying to keep a straight face the whole time and just keep pushing through. And it's nice to feel like you're not alone, and I wanted to be able to give that gift to others.
So Christina, I'm going to ask you one last question after thanking you for not only giving so much of your time to us today, but to giving so much to the Lyme disease community by using your platform as a vehicle for letting people know that although you are a bikini model and you are living the life in many ways of a celebrity athlete or a celebrity model, that there is a lot of pain behind the beautiful pictures that you're posting, and that you are letting others know that they're not alone. So thank you for doing that work. And I'm going to ask you one more thing. I'm going to ask you to give us one more thing as part of this podcast. And that is, in the event that, God forbid, someone in your family came to you and they told you that they had a tick biting them, what advice would you give to them so that they wouldn't have to go on the terrible journey that you unfortunately find yourself on?
For them to, if they can save the tick, definitely save the tick. Bringing it into the doctor so they can examine it, see if it is a deer tick or what kind of tick it is and such. And then, ask the doctor to give you the doxycycline. I personally, I wouldn't want to take the risk of saying if it is or not a tick. I'd say take the 6 weeks doxycycline anyways, but just to be on the safe side, because I couldn't imagine going through this Lyme journey ever again. I mean, it's terrible.
Thank you for listening to the Tick Bootcamp interview with our guest, Christina Colandrea. To our listeners, we have a call to action. First, if you'd like to learn more about Christina Colandrea and her tick disease journey, please visit her Instagram page at hot_Lyme_mess. Second, if you enjoyed this episode of the Tick Bootcamp podcast, please share it with your friends by using the social media buttons you see at the bottom of the post. Third, Tick Bootcamp has created a Tick Bite Blueprint that has been inspired by the information that has been shared with us by past guests on this podcast. We urge you to visit our website at www.tickbootcamp.com to view the blueprint. Please note we would appreciate any input or improvements you would like to offer. Fourth, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, or Spotify to get your automatic episode updates of our Tick Bootcamp podcast. And finally, please take a minute to leave us a review on iTunes or on our website. Thank you for listening.